Hey everyone, welcome to Thea's Elements. Today I'm going to be taking you along with me as I prototype our Pisces earrings. So at the time that you're seeing this, I believe Pisces is already available at theaselements.com, but I thought it would be fun to take you on the behind the scenes process of how I bring these earrings to life. So every time I design an earring, I typically have some sort of grounding piece that I know I want to feature in the design. So for Pisces, it was this gold charm with the moon and the stars cut out into it in the cloud. I thought it was just very fitting because while Pisces is a water sign, to me, I feel like they're the most romantic out of all the zodiac signs as far as like being a dreamer and having their head in the clouds. I feel like Pisces, especially with them being the last zodiac sign, there's also this esoteric quality about them that I thought is really encompassed by a celestial design. So that's why I lean more into like the moon and the stars with their design rather than their water elements. So here you can see me layering different celestial beads around this charm so I can kind of get a feel for what I want for the design. And something I'm always mindful of is how big the earring is going to be. Now, I know you might look at some of my earrings and be like, a lot of them are large earrings, and that's because I personally like larger style earrings. I love a good statement earring, but I do have a limit with how long it is because I don't want it to drag on anyone's shoulder. So now you can see that I have the bottom figured out a little bit. I'm layering beads on the top to add to the whimsy, but also to help me figure out like what the design is going to flow like, because I didn't want it to just start from the charm. I want it to kind of lead into that with some beads. I pulled a flower charm because I just felt like it looked very like pretty, and for Pisces I really want it to play into soft pastels. I feel like because Pisces has such like a whimsical energy about them, I want it to play into that. And so here you see me grabbing different butterflies and seeing what looks the best. I felt like the iridescent one looked the best in my opinion. I thought it complemented the flower really well and it would catch the light really beautifully. And then you see me layer another star on top of it. You will see in the final design that this star did not stay with it because it made the design a little bit too long. So when I initially tested it, I put it on and was like, I don't love it. I feel like it's a little too long. I feel like it doesn't really need it. And you'll see as I play around with these beads that there's a lot of stars throughout the bottom of the design. So the star on top really wasn't necessary anyway. So I decided to take that off. It shortened the earring, which made it fit the proportions that I personally like a lot better. Here you kind of start to see me play around with the other stars. I was still holding on to the moon. At this point, I was really determined to add the moon into it, but I decided later on that it wasn't the best fit because it made the earring a little too long, but also off balance because I wasn't putting any other bigger beads on the other side. It was asymmetrical in a way that I thought didn't personally look the best because we're dealing with a longer earring than we are a wide one. And I felt like having too much weight on one side would just off balance the whole thing. So as you can see, what I'm doing now is I'm layering the charms to see how they're going to look when the charm is suspended from it. And so here you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where there's a lot of length to this earring. The width comes from the cloud charm, but overall it's not that big of a charm that with the added weight of the moon, I just thought it would be a little bit much and would not look balanced. And when it comes to design, you want things to feel balanced. Even if it's asymmetrical, you still want there to be some sort of purpose behind it. You kind of have to know the rules to break them. And I felt right now the moon was just breaking the rules to get the moon in there, but I didn't really need it because it's in the charm anyway. So now I'm playing around with adding a small pearl into the design. And at first I put it in between the butterfly and the star, but I didn't really love the look of that. So you're gonna see that I end up switching that around in a moment. But first I hooked the charm onto it to see how it all flows together. So here you see me still trying to make the moon idea work, but I finally give up on it, realizing that it's not going to work. And instead I opted to just alternate the different stars. At first I was only gonna do 3, but then I realized that there was 4 holes and it made more sense to fill them all with stars. So you see me like deciding which way to alternate the colors. So now you see me start to attach the stars to the charm. And this took a little bit of time for me to figure out what I wanted. At first, I thought I wanted to connect them with jump rings, and then I looked at that and I didn't really love it. So then I ended up just hooking the bead itself with the wire onto the star and having it hang directly from it. And I felt it looked a lot cleaner in my opinion. So that's what I opted to go for in the final design. But that's why I have a lot of fun when it comes to prototyping because I'm able to just play around. And if something looks bad, I get to admit that it looks bad and then I get to fix it. And I will say this earring actually ended up being a little bit easier than I thought. I went into it basically pulling all my pastel beads onto my desk and having them in arm's reach so I could layer them. But then when it came to actually pulling out out the beads, layering them, designing this earring, it fell into place a lot quicker than I imagined. I blocked out like hours of my day to do this because sometimes with designs, you end up making so many different designs and none of them work. Like if you've been here for a minute and you go back to my older shorts, you will see the process for making the Terra earrings, which is part of the Elementals collection. That was something where I made so many different earrings and all of them widely different than what the final result ended up being because I was just playing around. And with design, sometimes when it comes to design where you have a vision but you don't yet know what that vision is, it's really interesting how you can make something and you're like, this isn't bad, but this isn't what it needs to be yet. But when it came to designing Pisces, I felt like everything fell into place, and it wasn't until afterwards that I realized there was no water element. And that's where I was struggling with, well, do I change the design that I really love and I feel really passionate about and just accept that there's not really any elements of water in it? Or do I try and rework it? And ultimately I decided to leave it as is because it's an earring that I love. And personally, when it comes to designing earrings that I sell, I always make sure that it's an earring that like me or someone else is going to love. Because if I don't like what I make, if I would never wear it, then that means there's no one else who would wear it. And obviously, I'm mindful that like I'm not the only customer, but I do have other people in my life who I share my designs with and I ask them for their feedback. And that's what I ended up doing with this design. When it came to having the star in the top part of it, I had my feelings about it. And then I went to a family member of mine and I said, what do you think about this? Is anything off? And they agreed that it just didn't need the star up there. So I took it off, I redid the earring. I came back and I said, does this look better? And they said, yes, it looks so much better. And I also agreed with that. So that's why it ended up as the final design. And that's why it's so important that like you have people around you whose opinions you trust so that you can collaborate, because sometimes you're so close to something you can't see it for what it really is. Here you can see me taking the star off and I feel like it looks so much better without it. In the prototype, I still kept the jump rings. I knew that it would just clean up the look in the final design. So that's one of those things that I knew until I made the final design, I didn't have to go through and redo it just for the sake of knowing what I wanted to change. I wanted to play around with taking the star off to make sure it looked good even without it. So that was how I prototyped Pisces. I had a lot of fun explaining my process to you, and I would love to make more videos like this in the future with the new earrings I designed, but also if there's any previous designs I've made that you want me to kind of explain a little bit more, I would love to do an in-depth video on them, especially earrings like Terra where there were so many changes. It would be really fun to explain how that happened. So if that's something you're interested in, give this video a like and share it with other people. And if you want me to make this video for my Aries earring, which is going to be my next earring in the Zodiacs collection, leave an Aries emoji in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and until I see you on my next video, remember to shine bright, be bold, and feel beautiful. Bye!